Welcome. In this video, I'm going to be talking about these 5 things. First, what is an income statement? We will be defining what an income statement is. Next, we will take 3 income statement examples from very well-known large companies like Microsoft, Apple, and Tesla in order for us to understand what is the structure or the format of an income statement. By that, we will define the specific parts of an income statement and the formulas or the calculation that go along with it. Then we will actually create the Microsoft company's income statement in Excel. Finally, most importantly, we will learn how you can create income statement of your own business in Excel. I will talk about how you can download a free template from inzara.com in order to create the income statement of your own business. I will also be providing tips to get the best out of the template while generating the income statement for your business. If you have any suggestions or information that you feel that will be valuable to the viewers, please put them in the comment section below. I will learn from it. Also, it'll be helpful to the other viewers who see this video. Thank you very much. Let's get started. We'll start with the definition of an income statement. An income statement is nothing but a financial statement of a business or a company that will show the revenues and expenses during a specific period. So it's a representation of the profitability of a company. So how profitable was that company during that specific period? It could be quarterly, it could be on an annual basis, but for that specific period, how profitable the company was. That is what the purpose of the income statement is. It is one of the 3 financial statements of a business or a company. The other 2 are balance sheet and cash flow statement. They are out of scope for this video, but if you hear financial statements of a company, these are the 3 that they refer to: income statement, balance sheet, and cash flow statement. An income statement is also called with many different names. The most common ones are the profit and loss statement or P&L, statement of profit or loss, revenue statement, statement of financial performance, earning statement, statement of earnings, operating statement, statement of operations. These are just some of the names that are usually used when they refer to the income statement. Now let's take a look at some of the examples. These statements are available from the company's websites. I just went and downloaded them from each of the company's websites, and this is what they look like for the most recent period that I was able to find from the company's websites. We will talk about the differences shortly, but first I want to focus on some of the common things across these statements. Broadly speaking, I would consider there are 7 key sections in these income statements. So let's look at them one by one. First is the revenue section. So this, you can see the revenue in all these 3 income statements. This is the total sales recorded by the company during that period. So I'm going to use Microsoft when I'm talking about the specific numbers because we just need one example. Microsoft recorded $16,873 million of product revenue during the 3 months ending in March 31st, 2021. So this 16,873 millions is the revenue from product for Microsoft. The revenue from service and other is $24,833 million. Total revenue is $41,706 million, which is like almost $42 billion. Now the sales or the revenue typically represents the sales amount of the products and services shipped out to customers during that specific period. Whether the customers have made the payments to Microsoft is immaterial here, because when the cash actually flows into Microsoft will be reflected in the cash flow statement. But in the income statement, what matters is when the items got shipped out to the customer. If it got shipped out during these 3 months, then it gets into the income statement. The revenue or the sales is also called as the top line because obviously it's at the top of the line of the income statement, but that's where everything starts. So it is called the top line. Let's take a look at next into second section, which is cost of revenue or cost of sales. This is the direct cost of producing the goods. So this will typically include raw materials, labor, shipping costs, and other costs that were required to build the inventory of products and deliver them to the customers. And this, in this case, Microsoft spent $4,277 million when it comes to cost of goods sold in the product area. And then the same thing for the service and the other section is $8,768 million. Totally, it took $13,045 million to actually create the sales of 41,706. So it's very important that these two are connected. $13,045 million were spent in creating $41,706 million of revenue. The cost of revenue or the cost of sale is also called as cost of goods sold or COGS, C-O-G-S. The third section is the gross margin. So the gross margin is nothing but if you take the total revenue amount and subtract the cost of the revenue, then you get the gross margin. So in this case, 41,706 million, subtract 13,045, then you get 28,661. This is the gross margin. This is a good indicator of the margin of our products or services. So for example, let's say if it costs $150 for you to make a product and you're selling that product for $160, it's only $10 of gross margin on each product sold. So if you sell 1,000 products, the top line might look like $160,000, but then the gross margin is only $10,000. The $10,000 is the only thing that is you can take home at that point of time, which is a lot less than 160. So this is why the gross margin is a very good indicator when you're evaluating a company on profitability. This gross margin is also sometimes called as gross profit, because so far we have only taken into account the costs of producing the goods in the cost of revenue. There are some other expenses, which is our fourth section. The fourth section represents operating expenses, and this represents all the expenditure incurred by a company for running the business or operating the business. So this includes salaries, rent, utility bills like electricity, water, and so on. An expenditure can be a cost or an expense. So remember that in the section 2, we talked about the cost of the revenue, whereas here in the fourth section, we are talking about expenses. So generally, the term cost versus expense distinction is important. And this is where whether a certain expenditure goes into the section 2 or section 4 comes into play. Now, some of the common groupings of operating expenses are actually used by Microsoft here: research and development, sales and marketing, general and administrative. These are the more frequently used from large companies, and they are sometimes also called as SG&A expenses. S for sales, G for general, and A for administrative expenses. Microsoft totally spent $11,613 million in this period for operating expense. I am not sure why Microsoft doesn't actually subtotal this and show the total, but I'm adding all these three numbers here in the section 4 and arriving at $11,613 million is the total operating expense for Microsoft. Now let's go to the fifth section, is the operating income. So operating income is sometimes called as income from operations, and this is the income for the company subtracting the operating expenses from the gross margin. This represents a true profit margin of a company because it considers all the expenses involved in running the business. That is the difference between a gross margin and an operating income. Microsoft's operating income is listed as $17,048 million, which is nothing but the gross margin $28,661 million, and you take away all the operating expense, you come up with $17,048 million. Now for the sixth section is representing all the non-operating income and expenses. So apart from the business operations, there are other income and expenses. They are recorded in this section. This will also include income tax payments as well. For example, if a company sells its real estate for a profit, then that will be a non-operating income. If you're paying interest on a loan, that's a non-operating expense. If you're receiving interest on a bank account, then that will be non-operating income. So, and also income tax payments are an expense as well. So Microsoft has indicated that their total other income or expense, net of it, the total income and expense together, is $188 million. And it is also provisioning for income taxes, $1,779 million. The final section of the income statement is the net income. The net income represents the total net income of a company, considering both the operating and non-operating income and expenditure, everything together. If this amount is positive, it is considered a profit. If it is negative, considered a loss. This is also sometimes referred to as the bottom line of a company. This is purely nothing but you take the operating income, subtract all the other income and expenses, then you arrive at net income. So if we look at the different examples, the three different companies, they have the same structure. They sometimes can provide more details or less, but this general structure is very similar. Now, just to recap, the 7 sections of an income statement are sales or revenue, cost of sales or cost of revenue, gross margin, operating expenses, operating income, other income or expense, finally net income. This is how for Microsoft during those 3 months, this is how the numbers work out to be. The net income is $15 billion for Microsoft in that quarter. Now let's quickly look at some of the differences between the different income statements. The name of the statement itself may vary. Microsoft may be calling it as income statement, whereas Apple and Tesla both call it consolidated statement of operations. The names of the different sections may also vary. Microsoft calls it revenue, Apple calls it sales, Tesla calls it revenue. Microsoft calls it cost of revenue, just like Tesla does, but Apple calls it cost of sales. The level of detail that is provided may vary between the different companies. Tesla, for example, has more detailed product and service breakdown. So it basically says automotive sales is this, automotive leasing revenue is this, energy generation storage revenue is this. So it breaks it further down, whereas Apple and Microsoft just say product. And again, there are other documents that Microsoft may provide, which breaks it further down into different sections or different product areas or segments, how much revenue they bring. So depending on the type of statement, you may have more detail or less detail. The period may also vary. Here we are looking at quarterly statements. There can also be annual statements as well. Typically in these statements, you will see the previous period or multiple previous periods actually compared for reference. So here Microsoft is comparing with 3 months ending in March 31st, 2020. Here comparison to 2021. And similarly, Apple is comparing 3 months ending in June 26, 2021 with June of 2020. So this is how typically the periods are compared. The delivery format may also vary. Microsoft actually provides an Excel version of their income statements, but I didn't see the same for Apple or Tesla, but they all provide PDF and other formats. There may be a lot of other differences as well if we look at other companies, other industry, as well as companies of other sizes, like maybe medium or smaller sizes than these companies. But the point is that there may be some differences. However, the overall structure and the key elements are standard as per the accounting rules, which are those 7 sections or the 7 parts of the income statement that we saw. Now, let's see how we can create the same income statement that Microsoft has in Excel. So here we have the settings where I have defined the categories and the subcategories similar to what Microsoft has done. So product revenue, service and other revenue, and so on. So I've actually entered the categories and the subcategories exactly as they are, and also the terms that Microsoft used. And now in the transactions, I entered 12 quarters of data. So for example, this is 1 quarter of data, and this is the July 2018 quarter, and you can see that I've entered those rows of data with the amounts. Similarly, I have entered 12 quarters, and the last quarter that I was able to get was something that starts in April. And so April, May, June, and that's the latest of the 12 quarters. So I've entered the quarter data, and now I can see in the income statement, it's automatically generated. And in order to compare with what we saw from Microsoft's income statement in PDF, it was showing the quarterly for the January to March. So this is the one that we compared, and these numbers match exactly with what we showed from the PDF earlier. In addition to doing quarterly, this also allows, we can look at it yearly, and you can see that now for the 3 years of data we have it. And we can also do monthly if we had monthly data. Since Microsoft website did not have, I don't think they publish anything monthly, so we only have quarterly data available. So we can do quarterly or annual versions of the income statement automatically in this template. So now for the last portion of the video, let's go and take a look at how you can create income statement for your own business. For you to create your own income statement, please download the template from inzara.com. I will provide a link to the page where you can download it for free in the video description below. So you can go there and download this template. Once you download this template, so you go there and then you can start entering your categories and subcategories first. Here we can see that I have done service revenue, product refunds and credits and all that. One thing I want to recommend here is that by providing more granular data, like for example, refunds and credits and things like that, these are relevant if you would like to get into the detail level in your income statement. I prefer it because it allows more visibility for me as a business owner. The next step is the customizing the terms used in the income statement. This is an optional step. I would recommend just leaving the default. I don't think it should have to be changed, but if you are very specific about net profit instead of net income, then you're welcome to change them as well. Let's go to the step number 3, which is entering into the transaction sheet. I have shown here more detailed transactions. So for example, every month, what was my utility expense? On the specific day, I got an order for revenue for $2,000. So I entered them here. And these are very, very specific order level detailed data. When we go back to the Microsoft's case, they have millions and millions of transactions happening every day. And so they show everything in aggregate, that's fine. But for a small business, if we have thousands of transactions, on a quarterly basis or so, then we can definitely enter them at a detail level, row by row here, and it should be okay. If you have a lot, then I would recommend maybe adding it at a monthly level. So you can add a row for each month. And by that, I mean one row for product revenue, summarizing the total revenue you had from products for that month. And you can enter them as one record or one transaction. And you can put the beginning of the month or the end of the month as the date of the transaction. So we enter the date, we choose what category it is, whether it's, those 5 sections, and then the subcategory would be, again, based on what we defined in the settings, the subcategory will automatically create the drop down for us. Now, transaction amount is the amount. If you want to change the currency, you can definitely, change the currency in Excel using the default options. So you can definitely go and change your currency to the currency that you would like. Here's how we can do it. So the first step is enter more detailed data if you have. Okay. The second is add more columns of information if you need. So for example, if you're entering order level data, you may want to enter a note about what was that specific order. If it's a large order, you can enter a note, or you can add other columns to capture, for example, the customer who provided that order to you, or so on. The more information you capture, it's going to be helpful to you. So please use the additional columns, or if you want to add more columns, you can add them as well. Now for the final step, we go into the income statement, and you can see that it's automatically generating the income statement for us. The simple inputs needed here are when is the income statement period starting and ending, and then which type of statement do you want? Do you want a monthly or a quarterly or yearly? So if I want to do something by quarter, I just change it, and now you can see that it automatically gives me a quarterly income statement. And so very, very simple, straightforward. Just enter the dates and choose what type of income statement, and it'll automatically work for you. As I was telling you about product refunds and so if you are choosing to use refunds, then make sure that you enter the amount as a negative amount. So if you're doing refunds, or if you are giving a refund, or if you received a refund from your supplier, either way, just make sure that you enter them as a negative amount. By that way, it'll come up in the income statement accordingly. And here you can see that there was a return of 30, and all the calculations and everything will be automatically handled for you. And then totally we can see the net income, and this is month by month, quarter by quarter. And if I change it by month, we can see if there was a month. Okay, this month, for example, the total net income was negative 300, which means we had a loss in that month. And then another month where we had loss, but in other months we have had, most of the months we have had profit. So this is how an income statement can be fully automated. Very simple, very quick. Enter your settings one time and keep entering your transactions as they happen. Or if you want to consolidate them and enter them once a week, once a month, enter them here. You can continue to enter as much as you can, as much as you would like. And the income statement can go all the way up to 50 lines can be added in this income statement automatically. Now, just to recap some of the benefits of Excel template. All the calculations are done automatically for us, so we don't have to do anything. It's flexible because you can create monthly, quarterly, and annual all in one file. It is dynamic because the number of subcategories here, Microsoft had different, we could create the same. And here we have some different numbers. So if I want to add one more cost of revenue subcategory or operating expense, one more operating expense subcategory, then I can do it, and then the income statement will automatically update and reflect that. It's very easy to customize. As I was explaining earlier, you can change the labels easily. And also, finally, you can enter detailed data, and you don't have to type in the pre-calculated data directly into the income statement. Instead, you actually just focus on entering your detailed data whenever it happens, and then the income statement will automatically be generated. So those are the key benefits of the Excel template. Now, for the final part of this video, I would recommend you check out some of the other Excel templates that we have. You can go to the Small Business Excel templates page, which I will again provide a link in the video description below, we have more than 50 different templates designed for small businesses. The one I would want to highlight here specifically is the Small Business Finance Manager, which you can use to manage your balances with all your accounts, whether it's a bank account, credit card account, cash, and also it will also generate an automated profit and loss statement or income statement, very similar to what we just now saw in the free template. There's also a cash flow report, and there are dashboard which provide you insights into the income and expense trends for your business. There's an unpaid report which tracks the unpaid invoices and unpaid bills. There's also customer specific and supplier specific reports, all packaged into one Excel file and made it to be very simple and effective. If you have any questions about any of the things that we covered in this video, please post your questions in the comments below. And if you have any feedback, please let me know as well. I'll see you all soon in another video. Thank you very much for watching.